I'm interested in hearing kind of the pros and cons of going to a university where you might be in the relative bottom quarter of the student body. If you go to your reach school, you could be in a lower academic tier, whereas if you go to, for instance, a community college or somewhere else that is one of your safety schools, you might be in the higher academic kind of performance group of that school.
I mean, I've had students, I mean, we're locally located, we're in California, and historically we've had, more students from California. I had a student a few years ago who got into UC Berkeley as well as UC Santa Barbara. That was at a time where Berkeley was as selective as it is currently, and UC Santa Barbara was less selective than it is currently. She really loved Santa Barbara and thought it was a good fit for her, both from the major as well as the campus culture, the sense of balance, the location, everything. But then she got into Berkeley. So she's like, I gotta go to Berkeley. Like, how do I say no to Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
Do I want to say no to that? Or do I just, go and not have a life for the next 4 years, because I don't think I'll have the balance I want, because I'll have to really throw myself into my studies. So she was really struggling with that decision because she felt like she was throwing an opportunity out the window to take an opportunity that is less prestigious. In the end, after a lot of going back and forth and a lot of conversations, she did decide to go to UC Santa Barbara, which I really think was a great choice for her. So one of the things I love doing with my students is I love introducing them to the idea of relative deprivation theory as it applies to going to university, and how successful versus how happy will you be at a university during your 4 years, based on how do you compare to the rest of the students academically, right? When you applied, were you in the lower 25%, the mid 50%, or in the top 25% of the student academic profile? And it's really quite interesting. So I really recommend that you Google Malcolm Gladwell relative deprivation theory Google Talk. It's just a 15-minute view. It's really funny. So even if you get nothing else out of it, he's a pretty cool guy. But it really talks about the fact that when you are surrounded by people who are just as smart as you, maybe a little smarter, maybe they just work a little harder, whatever it might be, maybe they have a different sense for what balance means to them, right? Or for what values are important in their daily lives. But when you are constantly around people who are outperforming you, whether that's going to happen or not, right? But if you do find yourself in that situation, you tend to lose a lot of confidence. And that makes you go way less towards those opportunities that you might have had, or that maybe you should have gone for, right? There's also a lot more competition for those opportunities. And so what can happen is that a wonderful, intelligent, hardworking student can end up dropping out of college because they went to a university where they constantly feel like they're running to catch up, instead of going to a university where they feel like, wow, I am doing really well. I'm actually going to take a heavier course load because I want to challenge myself. And they're choosing that challenge, maybe by increasing their course load, maybe by doing an internship, maybe by joining the honors college, right? There are always ways to up your load once you are at a university. But it's really hard to decrease your load if you're at a university that is very go, 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 and doesn't have quite the balance that you might be looking for. And it can have really negative effect on how you view yourself and on how you continue to progress and grow. So oftentimes it leads to a little more fixed mindset than growth mindset when you find yourself in a situation like that. So I think it's just really important to just really think about, what is the culture like there? So I love asking current students. I don't like asking them, so how hard is it? Because it's very subjective, right? Really subjective. But I love asking, okay, so like how many hours a week do you spend in class? And that's usually going to be, around 15 plus minus a few. And then I love asking them, so, if you have about 15 hours of class a week, so how many hours outside of class do you usually spend studying, doing homework, preparing for tests? And some schools, you might hear students say 15, 20, at others, they might say 30 or 40. And so think about that. If you're okay with that, and if that sounds reasonable, like what you were expecting, that's great. Go for your reach, totally fine. But just be really cognizant of what kind of academic environment you're going to be immersing yourself in. Just because you think that it's a higher, quote unquote, higher level, or there are more, again, in quotation marks, connections, that doesn't mean that that's the school where you are going to rise to a higher academic level or where you are going to make those connections. So really think about, where can you stand out? It's oftentimes better to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, gain more of those opportunities, gain more of those experiences, gain more of that confidence in your own academic prowess, and then rising up to those levels. So Malcolm Gladwell did a lot of research on this idea of relative deprivation theory, like I said. And what he found was that students who attended universities where they had scored in the lower 25% academically, and they went to these really, selective universities where they themselves were in the lower 25%, they ended up dropping out or publishing very little once they had graduated. That's how he was measuring success, versus the students who had been in the top 25% of the applicant pool and had gone to those universities. So more of the target universities or likely universities. Those students actually tended to finish college more frequently, so lower dropout rates, and they tended to have a higher rate of publications post-college. So that was really interesting, because you might think, oh, but if I go to Berkeley, I'm going to, be around all this research, and I'm going to be publishing, and I'm going to go to grad school. I'm going to do all these things. Versus if I go to Santa Barbara, I can do the same stuff, but I won't have the name Berkeley on it, right? This might be what's floating around in your head in the beginning. But then think about, like, where are you going to be able to take the opportunities in the way that you're seeking them? So I'm not saying never go to your reach school. I'm just saying, be really, really cognizant of what you're getting yourself into, and then, decide to do it and embrace it. That's great. But really ask yourself on a daily basis, how much time and balance do you want? How much free time do you want? Do you want to be studying every day till midnight for the next 4 years? Or do you want to have time outside of your studies to pursue an internship, to do your own research, to work, to pursue something for fun, have a social life, right? I mean, there are a lot of different things that can lead to success. And I think balance is really important for mental health, and having more consistent mental health can lead to a lot of success in your career and your academics as well. So yeah, I'll also provide a little anecdote about myself. I know I've been talking for a long time, but I ended up going to Chapman University, and it was definitely more of a target or likely school for me when I applied. I chose it simply because I got almost a full ride. And for me, the finances were really the most driving factor in being able to finish my 4-year degree. I simply couldn't have finished it if I hadn't gotten so much money. So that was amazing for me. And I got so many opportunities at Chapman. And I think it's because I got an incredible confidence boost. Really being able to take advantage of these professor mentorships, seeing, wow, I could do my own research if I just fill out this form, and just kind of going ahead and doing it, and not feeling intimidated about even trying to do that. So I think for me personally, again, this does not apply to everyone, but for me personally, it was such a great choice because I was able to experiment without having this pressure or this intimidation of looking around me and seeing other people, doing all these things that maybe I couldn't even imagine being able to do, right? And so I think I grew much more into my academic prowess and into my own confidence, which really led me to then, conduct original research, get published in undergraduate as an undergraduate, do an internship at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in the psychiatric facility, and do all these things and create my own documentary films and go traveling, get credits for it, right?
Sure.
And I was only there for 2 years. I transferred in, and I had so many opportunities. And I don't think it would have been quite the same. And especially, I don't think I would have had the same comfort level of pursuing these opportunities if I had been at a university like MIT, where I'm looking around me thinking, oh my God, or if I'm buried in work and can't even imagine taking on more outside of it, right?
Mhm.